How can any religion be true? Think about it. If, in fact, religions were true, meaning that when they claim that they are worshiping the God of their religion and that their God is all powerful and that they created the universe and all that, if those religions, which is pretty much all of them, they all say this, if that is true and the entities within their books that they claim to visually be able to see are that God person, and that's what they're referencing in those instances, then it must be that these religions are not true. They are, in fact, wrong. They are misleading. And that goes for pretty much every religion on earth that is being worshipped or followed by a human. Why is this a fact? It's because of simple logic. Something or someone or some sort of deity who these religions actually claim is responsible for it. Something out there, some unknown force, which religion likely is referring to as God, also the creators of their religion, so to speak. This all-powerful force out there, let's call it physics, let's call it chemistry, let's call it time, let's call it everything that we have ever studied about how things work for us. Everything works perfectly for some reason. Your blood flows perfectly through your veins, for the most part, until you develop health problems. Your heart beats exactly when it's supposed to, every day of your life, for at least 70 years on average. On average, okay? Your brain sends signals everywhere throughout your body perfectly. When I say this, I mean on average. I don't mean that there's nobody in the world that has sickness and cancers and ailments. That's not what I'm saying. Yes, these things are happening, but these ailments and sicknesses are also coming from forms of life that are flourishing within another life, yes, causing problems for one life form, but flourishing in and of itself perfectly. Look at the ecosystem. Plants, they're eaten by animals, animals eaten by animals, animals die and feed the plants. Perfectly. Forever. For some reason. All of these actions are perfectly going on. A cow or a deer can stand hours after birth because it's perfect. Life is perfect. Life has figured it out. Some force in the universe has figured out how to perfectly always have the same gravity when relating to this same amount of matter. For some reason, perfectly, the moon rotates around the Earth as the Earth rotates around the sun, as the sun rotates around the center of the galaxy. These are things that are happening perfectly all the time, whether you like it, know it, believe it, or not. All of these things are happening so perfectly. Let's go back to the ecosystem. Animals know they need to hunt. For some reason, perfectly, they know they need to hunt. Animals know they need to eat perfectly. For some reason, they know they need to eat that grass. When an animal dies, all the particles become transferred and transformed by even smaller trillions of organisms that are consuming the previous state of that matter and turning it into new states. And it's also being turned into new states after that by other organisms. Perfectly. All these things are happening so perfectly. Every time something dies, it decays perfectly, unless, of course, it's perfectly preserved. But it still decays, it just becomes petrified, fossilized, fills with stone in the cavities at which once were organic perfectly though, and they are still degraded back into our ecosystem perfectly. For some reason, life rises and falls perfectly rhythmically on our planet and possibly other worlds. The sun is the perfect distance. It's the perfect distance from the earth to be seen in the sky at roughly the same size as the moon, but perfectly the moon sits at its slightly smaller size in our sky, perfectly to be able to create the perfect phenomenon we see as an eclipse. Water freezes at 32 degrees. Our planet exists at a perfect distance from the sun so that water on Earth can exist at 33 degrees. At this temperature, life can begin to flourish and procreate. Even at lower temperatures, salt water can be a lot colder than fresh water without freezing, and life exists there perfectly. No matter where life can exist, if this is the case, life will exist. And that has not ever been disproven. Life is so perfect beyond your perception. Yes, life may stumble and fall and get killed or fail to become adult. Life itself, though, from the perspective of the universe, is perfect. From the human perspective, you may be able to find your flaws. But from the grand picture, life is perfect. Gravity is perfect. Electricity is perfect. Light is perfect. For some reason, it always works the same. It always works the same. It may not work the same to your perception. Like when your perception as a human, you see the macrocosmic world interacting with this world, reacting to you in a certain way. But when you get down to the subatomic levels, things start to act differently to us according and based on our perception of what we think is normal, what we decide to call normal. But in reality, these interactions are doing exactly, perfectly what they're supposed to be doing at the strengths and speeds they're supposed to be doing at the levels in which they are. Now, to wrap it up, why do I say all of this and initially say that all religions must be false? It must have it wrong, that their God is not the one who created all this stuff. Because all this stuff out here is perfect. This stuff exists with or without humans, and it exists perfectly, rhythmically, beat by beat, beat by beat. It happens, and it's going to keep happening, whether you like it or not. All this is so perfect. No matter what you do, you might be able to disrupt the flow of life for a few generations, but it's going to fix itself. With that being said, look at the religions of the world. All of them have major flaws. All of them are conflicting one another. They're all saying the other one is wrong. It is utterly imperfect. And if a God were coming to a primitive species and giving them this religion, don't you think that this God that created all this life and gravity and stuff perfectly could create an agreement perfectly among primitive insects like us? Create a perfect harmony of religion, of an ideal. That's all it is. A perfect format and template for everyone to agree upon, because you're so perfect. And if you are that perfect, why did not this occur?